Hello and welcome to a very special podcast series, Unusual Suspects. I'm your host, Gaurav Chaudhary. This is a series about unraveling stories of entrepreneurs, investors, and businesses that are disruptors, yet not in your face. Their disruptions have consistently delivered on the purpose and the mission they've embarked on. Their values are as strong as the mission. While they're ruthless in pursuing their ambition, they don't stray from being leaders who are not just admired for the vision and relentless pursuit, but also for how they're building an ecosystem of believers who consistently push the boundaries. They allow principles to take precedence over ad hocism. For them, profitability is as important as scale, creating and leading new categories and innovations. In each episode, I speak to one such leader, talking to her or him or them about their businesses, lives, inspirations, interests, challenges, pivot moments and turning points, successes, failures, agonies and ecstasies, frustrations, and of course, little joys. It is as much about their personal life stories as about their entrepreneurial journeys. Unusual Suspects streams on Earshot.in, Spotify.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, moneycontrol.com, and a host of other podcast streaming platforms. For this episode, I'm delighted to have Prerna Jhunjhunwala, the founder of Creative Galileo Kids learning app, Little Sangam and Tunde Me. Creative Galileo weaves together the best of education and entertainment to create personalized, integrated learning experiences for young minds. The platform is leveraging kids' favorite characters such as Little Singam, Chakra, Bahubali, Shaktiman, Big Biz Jr., and more to impart the best of education while keeping it fun. The company has also partnered with leading animation and content companies to deliver the best of entertainment and education, such as Big Animation Studios, Graphic India Studios for Chakra, Amar Chitra Katha, Periwinkle, and Toons Animation, among others. Prerna, a graduate from New York University, is a firm believer that a child's future not only depends on the grades in various subjects, but also on their impeccable social, cognitive, and leadership skills. Welcome to Unusual Suspects, Prerna.
Thank you very much, Gaurav. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Gaurav.
I'll start with a very basic question. Can you tell us about your entrepreneurial journey so far? And more importantly, what motivated you to start Creative Galileo?
So I think my journey or my interest in Creative Galileo started when I was just a child. My father owned many jute factories across India, and these jute factories used to be in small villages or outskirts of tier 2 cities of India. And when I used to go visiting these factories with them, all my summer vacations used to be basically inside these factories. We used to end up playing with the children who are working children who are working in those factories. And while these children were very similarly aged as I was, I realized very fast that what they are learning in school is at least 2 or 3 years behind what I was learning in school. Now, that was not because they were less talented than I was. They were probably a lot more talented than I was. But it is just that they did not have the opportunity. So very early on in my life, I started to think, when I grow up, I'm going to build schools all over India and impart education to millions of children. But as life happened, I actually graduated from New York University and went to Singapore and started my schools over there because that was my passion all along. After I started my schools in Singapore and they were doing brilliantly well, we were one of the most successful chains in Singapore in early years. COVID hit, and very fast we had to pivot from going offline to online. And when we did that pivot, I realized the potential of online learning, gamified learning for early years. And with that, I started to impart in my schools, which was hugely successful. And then just as something that I wanted to do while children in India were still unable to attend schools because of COVID, I posted our app on the Play Store. And the rest almost became history for me because we grew so fast. I mean, we are one of the very few edtech companies that grew at a unprecedented rate with about 1 million followers within first few months. of inception without having any consumer acquisition cost. We grew at a zero CAC, and we kept on acquiring users because our product went quite viral with the children who were using it. And at that point, I made the call that, with schools, I will always be able to impact maybe 5,000 kids, 10,000 kids, 20,000 kids. But if I really want to impact the education with millions and millions of children across the world, one of the way is digital learning. And that's how I very much pivoted from an offline model, which I then sold to a huge private equity, and moved into online learning. And since then, we've done a seed round, Series A round. We have 10 million users on our platform today. We are one of the largest kids learning app in India. So it's been a very fun entrepreneurial journey for me.
Very interesting and very insightful too. Prerna, tell me one thing. Why did you decide to focus on K-12 segment, and that too on the early learning modules? Was it a conscious business decision based on strategic research, and what went behind this decision?
So as I mentioned, that I started with the offline model first. And one of the most interesting thing in the online world was like almost all edtech companies in India are almost exclusively focusing on either skill development or test preparation. That's like 90% of the entire edtech community in India today. But from what I believe and what I have seen after interacting with thousands of kids in my schools is that the problem is more fundamental. I believe that children today need to focus on foundational learning, because that is what is going to define their educational success in times to come. No one today is asking if your basics is right. Our aim with Creative Galileo is not to force education, but to make education fun for the children so that they become lifelong learners. I read about a study that was carried out by Union Ministry of Education and the National Council of Education and Research, NCRT, and it said 37% of students enrolled in class 3 have limited foundational numeracy skills, while 11% lack the most basic knowledge of numeracy skills. Another leading publication came up with a report which said 56% of the class 8 kids can't divide a simple 3-digit number. Class 5 kids, 72% can't do division at all. So the problem is more fundamental. Like, it does not matter how much we try to prepare them for boards or higher education or so on. If they can't do basic division, if they can't do basic multiplication, subtraction, there is no way for the more competitive exams that are going to come in the near future. And that is essentially the reason why we focus more so on K-12, more so on early learning, because once the foundation is right, we know that it is going to be a beautiful journey of education for the child.
It's very interesting. You talk about FLN, foundational literacy and numeracy, and that is one of the core goals of the new education policy 2020, which the government has launched. And the Prime Minister himself is very actively pursuing this, and also wants India to achieve FLN as soon as possible. For this, all pedagogical structures and approaches are also going a fundamental change. And as you rightly said, that while there's a high degree of literacy in the technical sense, but FLN remains a goal that is not yet been achieved by many children in India, and the reasons could be manifold. But I wanted to understand one thing. Technology as an enabler of imparting education, technology as an enabler of pedagogical instruction has many values, and I don't think that requires that can be overemphasized at all, because we saw that during COVID, and we are seeing that now. However, it also has another problem. The problem is that there is a question of digital divide that might actually leave many children who cannot afford a digital device may be left out of the benefits of such kind of pedagogical education, pedagogical imparting of various skills and learning tools. How do you address that? Because it can only end up accentuating or creating a divide among those who have digital devices and those who do not have, those who have smart devices and those who have. Is there something that needs to be done both at the government level and also by the private sector?
Absolutely with you, Gaurav, on this. So there are two aspects to this question, the way I would like to address it. First, the best way to bridge any kind of digital divide or any kind of educational divide is to make sure that we are providing enough digital literacy, enough digital content to our partners who are the schools. The moment we can go across schools in India, across schools in tier 2, tier 3 cities, and provide them with high quality digital content, if we can digitize their classrooms and children are exposed to it, because at the end of the day we are living in a Gen Z era. Technology is a way of life now. It is no longer just a device, it is a way of life. And these children are going to be exposed to technology that has not even been invented today yet. So it is very important for us to go and digitize schools as a first step, and hence we have developed a product called Tundemi, which helps schools provide education, and it provides high quality content which enforces the the development of learning outcomes for children. The second part to this question is, which is the schools, is ensuring that children who don't have access to devices, right? We should collaborate with national agencies, like even if we have Doordarshan as a channel that has a tremendous reach in tier 2 cities. If we can collaborate with them and showcase good quality, high quality educational content in these channels, and provide children with low cost devices and software that can work to help impart good quality education to them, we need to make that effort to reach out to more children across India, whether it's through different national platforms like Diksha, like Doordarshan, or through schools as well.
Right, and will your new product Tundemi have a freemium model? What is the business model, or will it be a subscription model? What makes it unique compared to others?
So, firstly, we will be a freemium model because our entire ethos is to go and impact education for the masses of India, and the masses of India don't necessarily all have the ability to go into a subscription-based model. So yes, we do have a freemium model for that. And then we are different in the sense that we are not a traditional edtech company where there is a teacher talking and then on the other side of the device, the child is just listening to a teacher talking, because the age group that we are targeting, which is 3 to 10, it is very difficult to keep them engaged when there's nothing exciting happening on the screen. So the most primary way that we are different is that we are gamified in the sense linked to interactive activities and gameplays, but we ensure that with every activity there is a learning objective getting met, whether it is counting, whether it is phonics, whether it is multiplication, whether it is social sciences, whether it's financial literacy. So we cover a range of different topics, and we cover 6 learning domains which are the focus areas of NEP as well. So that is something that we do. We align ourselves to the curriculum, which is NEP, but in a gamified, interactive format. And the second way we are definitely very different from any other edtech company is that we are a platform that uses characters as a tool to make learning more fun and interesting for the children. Now, if you go back in your childhood and just try to remember why did you particularly like a subject? One way or the other, you'll remember that it was, that teacher who kind of excited me, and that's why I like that subject. So think of these characters almost as mentors or teachers, motivating children to learn more, exciting them to take up the next challenge and practice more. And children have such a strong affinity to these characters, their school bags are these characters, their water bottles are these characters, their pencil boxes are these characters. So we are using the power of these characters to make learning fun and take a child through their learning journey.
Prerna, is Tundemi language agnostic? How many languages are in India? I ask you this question because India is an extremely linguistically diverse country, and early education, and the government is also emphasizing this with a great deal of focus, is that early education needs to be done. If you want to achieve foundational literacy and numeracy, and if you want the goals to be achieved, I think the early education should be done in the language that children speak, more important in the language that children think. In how many languages is Dundemi currently offering? Are the tools available?
Currently, we are doing English and Hindi primarily. But the way our entire tech platform is built, it's built in a very agile manner. And when I say agile, I mean that we just have to go and change the layer of a voiceover, a VO, to be able to launch in any language whatsoever. And this helps us scale across different regions in India, in multiple languages in India, and it gives us the added advantage to kind of scale our products very easily. Because if you talk about when teachers are just teachers giving an education to the child over a screen, what happens is that every time you want to give something in a new language, you have to re-record everything. So the cost of creating content becomes extremely high. But for us, we have the content in a very animated manner, in a gameplay manner. Hence, there is no teacher in the front of the screen talking. And we just can keep the same UI, the same UX, the same learning objectives, but just change the VO of it. And that is why we are able to scale very easily across any regional languages that we want to. Having said that, we started with English, then we started with Hindi, and now we plan to go in multiple other regional languages like Gujarati, Bengali, and other states like Tamil, Telugu as well in South India.
Prerna, how are you aligning the courses, if I may use the word courses, or how are you aligning your the content that you're putting up on the app for children to access in line with the syllabi of CBSE and the NCERT and also different boards? Prerna?
So NEP and CBSE basically provide a framework to schools which focus on 5 learning domains, which is physical and motor development, cognitive ability, social and emotional development, cultural and artistic development, and development of communication through early language, literacy and numeracy. Now these are the 5 learning objectives, learning domains that NEP and NCERT focus on. Not only do we focus on these 5 learning domains as a primary curriculum that we impart, but we also focus on new age ideas and philosophies like financial literacy, STEM, animations, to kind of build children's interest in different spaces as well. But we take these 5 learning domains, which is the framework of NEP, NCERT, and CBSE, and after which we divide them into age-appropriate activities into multiple subdomains. We sequence the activities for children because you need to learn counting before you get to addition, or you need to learn addition before you get into a concept of multiplication. So we arrange the sequencing and progression for these children. Then we ensure that we track learning outcomes through our app, because every interaction of every child is recorded on our app, which makes sure that through our AI, through our ML learning, we are able to personalize the entire journey for a kid. So essentially, the content that you are seeing on the app, if you are a certain level but we are the same age, is very different from the content I am seeing on the app, even though we are the same age, but we may not share the same learning milestones. You might be a few steps ahead of me in numeracy, but I may be a few steps ahead of you in language. So it is extremely personalized to the abilities of a child, and hence ensures that children are meeting learning outcomes and learning milestones that have been defined by the NEP, NCERT, and CBS. We have taken these milestones, divided them into 1,800 different specific learning objectives, and provide 5,000 different learning experiences to the children through our app.
Prerna, last question, and last but not the least, of course. Given a chance, what would you want to change about early learning in India?
In my view, what we need to change about the early learning space in India is that there should be a shift in mindset and the approach towards early learning. Yeah. While we want our kids to become engineers, doctor, IAS, IPS, there is much more focus that needs to be given to the strong foundations of a child's learning and prioritizing the needs of young children, and investment in early childhood education has to definitely increase. More and more research is now saying that the first few years are critical in the development of a child's cognitive and social and emotional development. But somehow our investments in early childhood has been very minuscule. That is one. Our investment in digitizing early childhood has been very minuscule. And these are two things that we definitely have to improve upon to ensure that we are in alignment with the world standards and our children are growing up in alignment with world standards and exposed to those activities that children in across the world like China or US or Singapore are getting exposed to. And lastly, I would like to end by a short quote that if we teach today as we taught yesterday, we rob our children of a beautiful tomorrow. So the mindset shift that tomorrow is what we have to train the children of our schools today is something that we need to kind of focus on now.
Absolutely. Very well said, Prerna. And thank you for sharing these deep insights on how India can go about achieving its foundational literacy and numeracy goals, what needs to be done for changing India's early education structural problems, approaches, and more importantly, attitudes and mindsets, and how India can efficiently use technology for achieving early pedagogical goals. Thank you for taking the time out and dropping by to have this conversation.
Thank you very much, Gaurav. It's been a complete pleasure to be over here. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.